This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Well, Red Rock Resources have provided an update on their operations in Côte d'Ivoire, focusing on its mineral exploration activities. The company holds 2 licenses and 2 applications covering just over 1,400 square kilometres of prospective gold areas that have already been granted, and Red Rock has applied for 3 additional licenses in the north of the country, but these licenses had to be abandoned due to new regulations limiting applications to a total of 4 licenses. And as I understand from reading the RNS, and of course Andrew Bell, the CEO, is joining us today, that there's been a partnership agreed with Guardian Metal whereby they could potentially get some exposure to the licenses that Red Rock were already looking at. So is that the crux of this news, Andrew?
That's it, yes. We applied for these 7 licenses in 2021, and all but one of them, we've done the trip, what they call the ministerial visit, to with a representative of the ministry to visit them, after which the ministry writes a report. And it was a very long procedure getting these licenses, because every license had to be signed by the president himself. And so we started this process in 2021. And as you know, last year we got a couple granted. A couple of other licenses we were taking over or buying from other people. But then in the spring of this year, late spring, they gazetted some new regulations without really any warning, which included the limitation of 4 licenses per group or person. And I don't know whether that will be observed very strictly, or whether there'll be ways that it'll be reinterpreted, or people can use other companies. So, but on the face of it, that's a limitation. And I'm not completely surprised, because a decade ago, the last time people were looking at Ivory Coast for licenses, there was an informal limit, but now I think the limit has come back and been formalized, and so it's that. And there's a new minister, and we have to observe it. So we thought, well, that's rather a pity, because we've already done a bit of work identifying these licenses, mapping them, writing reports on them, and going on a visit to 2 of them. So we don't want to abandon it completely. But apart from anything else, we think this is good ground. So first of all, we discussed working with somebody who would then put in an application, and then we'd do a deal with them, so we would essentially come back in some form. And I think that was going to be acceptable to the ministry, at least in relation to 2 licenses. But people were a bit slow, and so then these licenses got taken off the cadastre. So these 3. So then we still had discussions with other people who were interested, and we said, well, look, with all the work we've done and our experience in setting up companies, which isn't easy in Côte d'Ivoire, and in applying for licenses, which again isn't easy. These things are bureaucratic, take time, and of course not everybody has the language skills to make it easy. All English language documentation about the shareholders, for example, has to be translated into French officially. So we said, well, we've got something that we can offer here, so why don't we try and work with somebody? So then there was a group which came to us, and 1 or 2 of our shareholders were already backing them. And they're planning to get listed. They've got some other projects that they're looking at, which is big, but could take time, not precisely the same field. And they were attracted by this. And some of their financial backers, other financial backers, have looked at things in French-speaking West Africa before. So we were very quickly, in about 24 hours, able to do this deal. And I've been sending them information about it all. There is a lot of work. A whole screen of emails from back in 2021 represents just 1 week's toing and froing on this. So that's quite exciting.
Indeed. So this gazetting then that came about last minute without any sort of warning, was that quite a bit of a coming left field? Was that a little bit sort of annoying for you and the team at Red Rock?
It was slightly annoying. We paid a few $1,000s of sunk cost in visiting these places. I mean, it's obviously not catastrophic, but we thought, well, how can we turn this to a positive?
Okay.
So we still have now our hand on, indirectly or indirectly, potentially quite a lot of ground, good ground, and our four main licenses are all around Yamoussoukro and relatively close to each other. And these three, well, one is in the northwest, one in the north central, and one in the northeast. They've all had artisanal mining on them. The one in the northwest has a lot of gold around there, a lot of artisanal, and over the border in Mali there's mining. So we know that that's a pretty good area. The one in the middle has got Canadian, Australian companies exploring along the trend just to the north and just to the south in order to get a reasonable scale project there. I think that this ground at Koroko would be necessary as part of the picture working with somebody else. And the one in the northeast is very, very interesting structurally and geologically and so on, but hasn't had any real exploration. But jolly good. Our team then out there that is doing things with us, the Côte d'Ivoire people, they will be able to deploy their skills over a slightly larger portfolio, which will enable us to them to be cost effective and means that not all the financial burden will pass through to us. So there's lots of advantages in this, and I think Côte d'Ivoire remains a very attractive jurisdiction for gold exploration.
Okay. So when this all sort of goes through, is the idea that Red Rock will have 4 licenses themselves, and Guardian Metals will have 3 that Red Rock will effectively manage for Guardian, but Guardian will own them.
Yes. And obviously exploration goes through various phases. You start off by taking samples of trenching, doing some geophysics, geochemistry.
Okay.
And you might move on to more trenching, more systematic sampling and drilling. But you're not drilling all the time. So you have people there who can cope with the sort of surge capacity when you're doing something actively. And if you've got a couple of companies and 7 licenses and you've got people pursuing them, you can have a bit more of an establishment working on these things. So I think that's good. What we're looking for our licenses short term, and possibly this could apply to the 3 that we're talking about, is alluvial potential in the short term to get out the free gold. And as you know, we're looking at bringing into production the alluvial project in Burkina Faso. But there's at least a couple of these licenses, and they're big licenses that we have really good alluvial potential. So we'll have to get on there, look at the grade, and try to things up.
Okay, just a couple of other thoughts then. So Red Rock are being paid £10,000 for the services here from Guardian Metal, and then going forward, you retain a net smelter royalty, but also the ability or the option to actually buy into those licenses in the future if you like the look of them. Okay, and then when it comes to the plans here, then you talk about getting alluvial sort of free gold, getting into sort of that production fairly swiftly. Presumably you're going to be sort of taking the same approach with the Guardian Metal licenses here and basically doing them in tandem. So how are things shaping up for the sort of cross-functional exploration plans here across both companies? And when would you be looking to get active on the ground?
Well, of course, we've already started getting equipment and getting personnel ready to start production artisanal in Burkina Faso. And that would entail also a small-scale mining license and writing environmental report. So all of that. It's not really different in Côte d'Ivoire. Many similar features. So we can follow the same process. And how we mix and match the teams we bring in, and to what extent we do it ourselves, to what extent we bring in a partner. For that, yet to be seen. We do have suggestions from third parties. They would come in and work with us on the artisanal, not of the artisanal, I mean on the alluvial. But we'll have to see. A lot of this depends on how strong our financial position is as a company.
Okay.
Because actually, you look at any one of our projects, and they're potentially worth a lot more than the market capitalization of the company. We've perhaps been held back by our fairly long battle to get compensation out of Congo.
Right. Okay. I do want to finish off on a question of that, but just quickly before the focus at the minute of the company then, you've got Burkina Faso, you basically got equipment on the ground and you're looking to get into artisanal, effectively, that style of mining imminently.
Well, actually, alluvial, but
Alluvial.
not just bigger. Yeah. But we
Right.
also, the reason with the gold price so strong, why we have to be quick. For example, visiting one of our licenses in Ivory Coast, we found that some local people had established a fairly sort of mechanized gold production operation. Now, they don't do any of the things that we have to do in the way of, sort of feasibility, environmental studies, paying taxes, getting approval of the ministry and stuff. They just bring in the equipment and produce gold and smuggle it out. But that's not good for us because they're extracting gold and they're making money, and they always will be using some of that money to get the local authorities to turn a blind eye. So you can't allow these things to get rooted and established, which is the reason why we have to really accelerate. We have the people who are capable of it, and I think, very much hope that we'll be able to start becoming strongly cash flow positive in the near future, and also realize some money from Congo.
Congo, yeah. Okay, so going cash flow positive. So you would hope to make an announcement, would you, fairly soon on sort of getting started with alluvial mining?
Well, I think we're going to be producing an update across the board of our activities in the next few days, because we said we are ready, and of course we have to get that approved by the nomads, and we have to see what we can say, and sometimes there are things you can't say because you're having discussions.
Yes, indeed. And you've mentioned a couple of times DRC there. I know it's just a common recurrence, getting an update on where things are going at the DRC. Yeah, what's the latest, Andrew?
I spent 2 weeks out there, and some of the people we work with, they're not particularly old, but they do fall ill rather frequently. And I say to them, this is malaria. This is because you weaken your immune system by getting malaria. And then they say, no, it isn't. Then a little later, they say, well, what medication are you having? I said, oh, yeah, right. Well, that's malaria medication. This is the effects of malaria. And then when you tell them, oh, don't you worry about this, don't you keep out of the places where you can get malaria in the evening, don't you use the insect repellent, they say, oh, no, we don't bother with all that sort of stuff. But it's a real issue, and I think it has been ever since, we had DDT that could have eliminated the malaria effectively in Africa, saved millions and millions of lives, but because of environmentalists with scare tactics, DDT got banned, which has cost millions of people, not the first or the last time that environmentalists, pseudoscientists, have caused mass death. But yes, sadly, I was out there for 2 weeks, and I'd say I lost 50% of that time due to one rather key person actually being ill. But we are making great progress and great strides there, and I think we are very close to a solution which will get us what we want. It is, of course, quite complex because of the number of different parties involved, so one has to cut through all of that. But we were very, very active, and there are things happening now, and I am hopeful. What I can say is that the base case there is this is not going to run away. We are not going to lose. It's just that if we are always going to win, and never quite happens, there's money sitting there idly, which could be being used to advance the business. And we're not going to get paid interest, I imagine, on money that is sat there for 3 or 4 years already, not being paid. 4 years. So yes, it is a high priority to get a solution to that. But we have other people, including someone I've known in France for 10 years, and he was his family had a fur shop, leading furriers in Paris. He got taught how to cut diamonds in New York. He's been getting diamonds from Congo for 10 years, and is now developing a bit of expertise, and has got 1 or 2 potential licenses, wants to go 50-50 with us. And I said, yeah, well, it's very, very interesting, but until we can solve our main issue of that, I don't think we can make further investments in Congo, even if we have a much better structure with someone like you, because I think we have to prove the point that you can get justice, you can do things in Congo by finishing with our main asset, getting a solution. Because when we get a solution there is also some continuing actions we can take to get back the money of which we were cheated. So it won't be the last act. If we get the first, say 10 million, 7.5 million, 15 million, that's not going to be the end of it, because that will lead on to further claims. And so it's not something we can ignore.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Andrew, as always, for your time, the CEO there of Red Rock Resources.
Yeah, it's all interesting, and I think the next few weeks are going to be very interesting.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programmes at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.